lust is really hard for me. No pun intended. I really struggle with it because I get kind of cringy, and then I feel like I'm using like cliche words, and then I'm just it doesn't feel natural.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Shannon, author of the books The Zimmer Insurgency, The Hounds of Harrigan, and Tiger Blues. This is a podcast about indie writing, featuring excerpts, sample chapters, short stories, upcoming news, and interviews with a variety of other indie authors. KristyLee is an author of romantasy and contemporary romance. Her most recent book is Mr. Brightside, a contemporary trauma romance. She balances life as a writer, wife, mother, and full-time business professional in Ontario. When she's not working, Kristy enjoys a variety of hobbies, including outdoor activities, unless there's snow, watching movies, dancing to music in the kitchen, working on various craft projects, playing video games, and, of course, reading and writing. In addition to the writing, she's also a Twitch streamer, and this interview is a little different. She hosted me on her Twitch stream live on July 16th, where she first interviewed me, and then I turned the tables and interviewed her. What you're hearing now is my rebroadcast of that conversation. It was a wide-ranging conversation. We mostly kept things narrow to talking about Mr. Brightside and my upcoming work, Taming the Laser Leopard. Kristy has done a couple of other author interviews, which you can find on her YouTube channel, and I tried to structure things using her format with some rapid-fire questions. There are also some comments coming in from her Twitch viewers, which you will hear her address as we go. Kristy does a reading from Mr. Brightside at timestamp 1:18:30. This was a lot of fun. I highly recommend you give her a follow on Twitch. I give you KristyLee.
Jason Shannon, an indie author of science fiction, fantasy, and historical fiction. Jason was born in Belleville, Ontario, a town now known throughout the province as Belle Vegas, despite its utter lack of brothels, casinos, and Elvis impersonators. Although the real Elvis lives in hiding just north of Belleville in Tweed. Is that true?
That's a rumor that goes around. I have family live in Tweed, and it's kind of one of those little tidbits that floats around Belleville, like, oh yeah, Elvis is still alive and hiding in Tweed. And also,
of
correction, we now do have one casino in Belleville that they took 50 years to approve. And
what happens in Belleville only stays in Belleville because the stories aren't worth retelling. Okay, so you have how many books out right now?
I have 7 out now and an 8th that we're going to be talking about a little bit coming out later this year. Hopefully the next day or two, it's going to be listed for pre-launch on Goodreads, and I believe it's already up on Amazon. But I don't have an exact date. It'll be sometime in the fall. That's Taming the Laser Leopard.
Taming the Laser Leopard. And so we're gonna say tentatively September 1st.
Probably be closer to October 1st, but
October 1st. But I actually was getting a PDF prepared to put in the chat so that I could share that with you guys. And I guess I should have, don't even have the chat open for myself right now. So I'll get that open there. Mama says, I knew Elvis was still kicking. Okay, so just getting to know you. So, and for people who are discovering who you are for the first time, how would you describe yourself in 3 words or less?
You're not going to do the thing about you can't use writer, author.
You cannot use books. Yeah, you're right. I usually do that in my interviews. You cannot use books, author, writer.
I would say a bad communicator, which is why I write.
And it's so funny because I feel like I've been a really bad communicator for you. And so for you to say that you're a bad communicator, I'm like, oh gosh, what does that make me? Because you've been absolutely fantastic planning this interview. And so when did you start the podcast?
You know what? I was actually just looking this up the other day. I think it was 2023. Initially, I just put it up because I have a bunch of short stories and sample chapters that I was getting into doing the audio. I've got some audiobooks out now, and I was getting into the audio with those, which is a good way to start. But then not everyone who follows me is going to want to go to my website and download an MP3 and have to search through their phone for it. So I'm like, well, Spotify makes it really easy to just put up a podcast. And so I did that for the first 10 or 12 episodes. And then it began branching out into like, well, I've kind of run out of sample chapters. And now I do a lot of author interviews because I like chatting with other authors about their process and their editing style and marketing and all that stuff as well.
Right. And so that's was my follow-up question was what like what kind of prompted you to start it? Um so I feel like whenever anybody starts a new journey, they learn something along the way that they weren't really expecting. So, what was it about podcasting that you're like, wow, that was a lot harder than I thought, or I did not know this was part of the journey in podcasting?
I guess getting into the interviews was a real challenge because I was trying to get into like reading whatever sample chapters are available for authors
Mhm.
and researching like other interviews they've done. So I'm not asking them the same questions they've had before and trying to prompt them with some good questions. And that's not always the easiest thing to do when it's like, oh yeah, 4 days from now, let's set up an interview. And like, oh no, I've got a full-time job to work and I have to research all
Right.
this stuff about you. And it's usually indie authors who don't have a tremendous amount of interviews and stuff online. So I really have to kind of pick the bottom of the barrel to try and find out some stuff about this author.
Right. Yeah. I can get that. And then you're also when you're working with indie authors, you don't really know what you're getting as far as like extrovert, introvert. I mean, if you're getting like a best-selling author, chances are they've done lots of interviews and they know what to say, and then so you don't really know what to expect when you go into an interview with somebody.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a few that have clearly been around the circuit and you can tell when they're just doing like the boilerplate answers. There's also been a few that like I really prompt them to answer questions and they give like a 1 or 2 word response. And I'm like, if this is your cue to kind of ramble on a little bit, I'm gonna re-ask the question with a little bit more depth. And it's frustrating to sometimes go and edit that one.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like, "This is your chance to shine. Speak."
Which I get because I'm a natural introvert as well. And I'm sure 5, 10 years ago, if I had been on a stream like this, I would have been like completely clammed up and not sure what to say.
Yeah. I agree. If it weren't for streaming, I would not know what to say at any time, but I'm still really bad at, like, impromptu questions where they're like, if your book was a drink, what kind of drink would it be?" It's like, "Ah, I don't know." Um, okay, so, have there been any conversations during your podcast that have changed your perspective on things?
That's a good question. Um, I've interviewed a few people that are co-writing or co-authoring books,
Mhm.
and that I always like to ask questions about that, about how they approach it, how they sort of divvy up the work, if they ever run into conflicts about where they want a chapter to go, which was always interesting to hear about stuff like that because I find it very difficult if the challenge ever came to me to try and write something with another author or a friend. So to
Yeah.
see like how they go about it and how kind of I don't want to say sacrifices, but the give and take that they have, that's a good one there.
Yeah, that I agree. I have seen co-working done before, and I think to myself, how do they do it? So apparently, I need to listen to your podcast on that particular episode and figure it out. I'm just looking at the comments; they're just being goofballs.
Hmm.
Basically, what I'm saying is, you guys aren't giving me any quality comments to actually have to recite. Come on, you can do better. If you guys have any questions in the chat, feel free to ask. Um, So let me see. What are some other questions I have for you here? I have a good list. Um, oh, here's a good one. This is actually a really good question considering I'm doing an interview after this. What have you noticed as a common trait among guests who leave a lasting impression?
Um, they surprise me.
Mm.
They come with like really good or thoughtful answers that is maybe not something I was expecting. Some interviews I go into, not to besmirch anyone, but some of your authors, you come in like, I know what I'm going to get with this. I kind of, there's maybe 3 or 4 questions I will recycle if I'm running out of time, and I'm like, oh, I can squeeze this in there. But
Right.
then sometimes an author will come back and they'll have like a really, thoughtful answer, and I'm like, I didn't think of it like that. That's an interesting way of doing
Cool. All right. Well, that didn't help me at all.
it.
I'm like, oh, I don't think I can think of anything particularly thoughtful. Maybe I'll surprise you. Maybe I'll surprise myself. And uh, okay, here we go. We're gonna go into more of your writing stuff.
Sure.
And if anybody has any questions about podcasting or writing or anything, feel free. Um, so when did you start writing?
I started in, I guess, high school. I think it was 10th grade, but all that stuff was kind of probing around the dark, and wasn't sure what I was doing. Um, and I guess I started seriously doing it towards the end of high school. There was a book I was working on in, I think it was like the old OAC year, which is grade 13 in Ontario.
Yeah.
Um, and I started working on that, and it wasn't until like I went to trade school for college, so it was like after that that I really like buckled down and finished it. And that was the first one I really, really finished, and it was polished, and I was circulating it around for a little while with traditional publishers and agents. So I got, yeah, probably 18 or so was when I was taking it seriously.
Nice. And what was that book about?
That
Or is it
was
one that's published?
No, that's not published. And it won't be. It I made several mistakes in that one. The biggest one being that 8.5 by 11 does not translate into 6 by 9. So 300 pages in that does not translate into 300 pages. So it wound up being
Right.
double the length. It was post-apocalyptic. There was just continuity errors throughout, and the prose was very formulaic. So it was a good starter novel. I know other authors have similar novels that they start on and they never let see the light of day. But I learned a lot from that. And then my, next post-apocalyptic novel that came years later, I was able to take some of the lessons learned and go with that.
Right. As we do.
Of course, yeah.
I have a couple of questions here in chat. Mono Red Knox asks, which do you find more rewarding, traditional or independent publishing?
So I'm only independent. I tried the traditional game for a while, and this was I was about in my mid-20s, so 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was back the snail mail days. You send it out, they say, don't contact anyone else, and wait 8 months minimum for us to say no to you. So it
Woo.
was a little bit disheartening to like put my heart and soul into something and then put it in the mail, and it's just gone, and my life is on hold seemingly for close to a year.
Yeah.
um when I first went independent, I took a novel that was, novella length at the time, that was like, well, they're not going to want this anyway, so I'll just self-publish. I'll make a name for myself here. It became novel length in the editing process.
Woohoo.
And from there, I never looked back. Part of my brand is it doesn't fit neatly into certain boxes either. It doesn't follow the trends of like, this is the Hunger Games meets The Shining or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and I have a bit of an audience now that I don't want to like take a book and just write it in secret and put it off on the shelf, waiting for it to be rejected for 10 years as I deprive my audience of that.
Right. Right. And I agree. I never tried, but I definitely thought about it at some points, and just being a busy person. I've always been a busy person. The idea of sending things out all over the place just to get rejected when I can just put it out myself,
Mhm.
it just seemed like a no-brainer to me. Um uh okay, so I'm just going to skip Steve for just a second, and Mama had a follow-up question. Um oh, she says, when you write dystopia, what does that mean to you?
That's interesting because I often will write something. It stays on the market for 6, 7, 8, 10 years. And then people discover it and they're like, oh, this is exactly what's happening now. You should write something more upbeat. I'm like, no, I wrote this long before. I had in my book Rain's Agenda, there's one of the central plot points is Amazon forest fires. And a few years ago, like there was these massive forest fires in the Amazon. I'm like, no, I wrote that about 10 years before. Like I'm not predicting the future here.
It
So
seems like you are, really.
I mean, yeah, maybe I should write something more positive or upbeat. But dystopia, I guess for me is like just a world that seems like it's on the decline or that you wouldn't want to live in.
Right. And she says, I am terrified of that happening to mine. Steve says, have you ever considered streaming on Twitch?
I have not. It's such a challenge just to get content for my podcast and to try and stick on a weekly schedule for that.
Mhm.
So I watched some of your stream from last week as you were packing for the Pages and Pleasures,
Oh,
and it's like,
I didn't know.
yeah, I don't, I'm not a member or you know
Yeah.
persona on Twitch or anything like that, so I didn't know if I could comment or whatnot. But you were busy like packing for the show anyway, so I'm like, I'll just watch this kind of in the background as I was making dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
But it seems like it'd be a lot of content to fill.
I mean, I feel like my viewers are called the Badgers. I feel like the Badgers kind of create the content for me at some points. Generally what we do is we write, and so we will be quiet and listen to music for half an hour and just be productive,
Hmm.
and that's what we do. um I mean, I feel like what you're doing with podcasting is very similar to just like what we're doing right now. Like you could be streaming on Twitch, you could also be doing a podcast, and then yeah, you'd just be like covering another platform. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I do edit my podcast, sometimes fairly heavily. If
Yeah.
yeah, I leave authors the option to say like if you stumble and you reveal a spoiler or whatever, and they will take me up on it. They're like, oh, I don't like that answer. Can we go back and cut that? I just have to make a note and be like, cut from whatever 8 minutes 40 seconds to whatever.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little bit different. I guess I could still cut it all afterwards and just have the raw stuff up on Twitch.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just
Mhm.
exclusive content for the viewers who are watching live, right?
Yeah.
I don't save my videos after because we listen to a lot of music, and then if I save it, it ends up just completely muting any music. And we do dance parties and stuff, and the last thing I need is for people to be watching me just dancing with no music. And that's just Meeper says, why did you want to write an essay that was published in Being Fruitful Without Multiplying? Is that something that you had said?
That's on my website, so I'm sure they found it there.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, thank you for finding my website. Basically, yeah, being fruitful without multiplying. So I'm what's called child free, which means I never want to have children. And I used to be a part of a couple of Facebook groups dedicated to this, and there was an author on there who basically said like, send in your stories as to why you want this, or what was your motivation, or anything of that nature. And I misunderstood initially and sent her like a one paragraph thing, but then I wound up sending her just something for her own interest later on that was like 4 pages long, and that's the one she published. So it's
Oh,
basically
nice.
the true story of my vasectomy at the age of 25 is what got put in that book.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that's interesting.
and that was actually technically my first publication.
Wow. Well, why didn't you start with that one? I said, what are you writing? What got you started? Ah, that would be funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
Um,
I sometimes forget about that because like I didn't intend for it to go out. I don't regret it. Like it's nice
yeah,
that it's in there.
yeah,
Um, it just it was something I sent her, and that's the one she went with.
yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Uh, let me see here. Okay, so let's do a little talk about Taming the Laser Leopard.
Yeah.
Where did the title come from?
So I'll give you some. I don't know if people can see that too well, but
Yeah.
that is not revealed to the public yet. My mailing list has seen it, and it'll be out on Instagram and social media in the next few days. Um, Basically, some backstory to the whole I say series in air quotes because each book is standalone and can be read as such. But
Mhm.
my 2025 novel, Taming the Laser, or no, Tiger Blues, introduced two real historical figures, Olive Yang and Kawashima Yoshiko, who I pair up as sort of a dynamic duo and put on this otherworldly, sort of out there diesel punk. I don't want to say dystopia, but like alt history, I guess. And I always intended, like, I guess once I realized that that book would work, and there was some questions as to whether or not it would. Once I realized it would, then I was like, there's definitely more I could work with here. And so this becomes the prequel that sets up Olive's marriage, Olive's arranged marriage. So Olive, some background, is Burmese drug kingpin, well known throughout the Golden Triangle in 1950s. Assigned female at birth, may have been something else, not up to me to decide. We don't have any very clear statements from them in their lifetime, but only interested in women. And also semi-royalty, so they had to basically were forced into a marriage that fell apart almost immediately for dynastic reasons. And so that was kind of the genesis there. It is referenced, the incident in the book is referenced in Tiger Blues, and I'm like, oh, this is where I'm going to go with this.
Amazing. That's so like unique to anything that I've personally ever heard. Like I usually stick around romance writers,
Mhm.
but and even know what? Honestly, I attract lots of different writers on my stream, and to have such a dynamic like genre with such like a unique history is very cool. This
Yeah,
is
and
this.
the a lot of the more outlandish elements, like Olive has this like cybernetic arm that's got a laser sword bolted onto it. Olive kind of had a cameo in an earlier book, which is not out yet, but will eventually come out. And I just kind of threw everything in that one. So that's where a lot of the more sort of out there elements came into it.
And where do these ideas like I don't want to say come from because that just like where do they originate in your brain? Like like what are you doing and like thinking about when you're like, yes, cybernetic laser arm. Yes. That's what I need.
Um, long story behind that one where basically I've kind of wanted to do something involving like the Pacific War for a long time. I'm a huge history buff.
Mhm.
I in my high school we learned a lot about the European theater, not so much about Japan. So I always had these lingering questions about like, well, what was the Japanese motivation? What was the nature of Japanese fascism? Things that were only very briefly touched upon with my high school history teacher. And so I just kind of did my own independent reading for many years. And I had some ideas for various books over the years, but they always fell apart because I like historical works, but so often it's just a very boilerplate retelling of the actual history, but with
Mhm.
bad prose and kind of poorly imagined dialogue. So I might as well just read the history at that point. So I'm like, I've got to add some more stuff to make it my own and have all the winks and nods to the actual history in there, but still keep it interesting for people who know the history intimately.
Oh, cool. Um so it's kind of like me not ever really loving history very much, but if I were to go in and read it, I wouldn't really know, but I would still be kind of learning at the same time, maybe.
Hmm. Yeah. And I have
Yeah.
extensive historical notes at the backs of my books because
Yeah.
there's little Easter eggs in there that show up. And I'm very non-expositional when I write. So I don't want to have an Easter egg show up and then spend a page and a half explaining it because I think that's
Right.
boring to read. But I can
Yeah.
put that in the historical note and say, when this character said this, they are actually referring to this.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
No, I like that. That sounds like something that would be good for someone like me. Thank you for explaining it. Oh, very cool. So let's keep going here. Is the book written for anyone, actually?
This is one like I get asked sometimes like who is my audience or who's my intended audience, and it's hard for me to tell what that is. I guess I am my own primary audience
Yeah,
because I mean the reason why I write in the first place is because what I want to read is not on the market, or at least I haven't found it too readily on the market.
yeah,
So that's why I began writing, and that's why I continue to write, and I have some out there ideas.
yeah,
I guess it's written for people who are like me, who want things that they can't find too easily. It is the subgenre of diesel punk, which I tell that to people and they're like, what is that? So
Mhm.
it's yeah, I'm not sure if there's a specific audience. It is very pro LGBT. Um, so I found a lot of support among that community. But otherwise it's
Cool.
just people who want like an action-packed cinematic style.
Cool. Um, and one thing that I've found just by streaming here is you are, yes, a unique person, but there are many people like you in the world, and they're probably trying to find you. Um, and so if you are yourself in your podcast, you are yourself in your Twitch stream, you are going to attract the people that, like your vibe, like your writing. And that's just how it is. And the people that aren't really big fan, they'll go on their way, but the people that are your people will stick around. So
Yeah,
you
and
have an audience then. You have a
yeah, I have there is a few people who will keep coming back, and that's always, very heartening to see that, because it's sometimes you're talking into the void and it's like, oh wait, you're actually following me like regularly. That's so nice to see.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's like it makes you feel like less alone when writing itself is such a lonely hobby where you're kind of on your own doing it by yourself. But to find other people that are like, wow, this is really good. It's like, really?
Mhm.
Because you're really, yeah, at the end of the day, you are writing for yourself and you're writing because there are books out there that you like, you write what you want to read. And so to find some other people that are similar is just amazing. Um, Meeper says, your artwork is super cool. Stylistically, it is different to what it is on most bookshelves at bookstores and is reminiscent of older cover art style. Could you dive into the process selection for your artwork?
That one, there's a couple of cover artists I use, and I guess starting with my second book, I wasn't too sure what to describe for the cover, and my second book, for context, was 1,300 pages, so it's not like I'm going to hand that over and be like, "Here, read this as homework," and then you can decide what you want to put on the cover there. Um, I just kind of said, "I'll put like a horseman on there." That's my The Hounds of Horigin is the book I'm talking about.
Right.
And I guess it's kind of continued a pace from there. Sometimes I just describe a very basic idea, like I want this, and my artists are very good. They do exactly what I want. They'll revise things if I need them to, and I always get comments on it. It is more reminiscent of older stuff. I know that the modern style is just kind of vague collage, and
Yes.
which is fine. I want to maybe experiment with that and see if there's like a difference in sales.
Yeah.
Um, but I like the art myself. It's always nice when my artist emails me and is like, "Oh, here's a rough sketch," and it looks great. So,
I feel like that's the best part of like the entire process is making the visions that have been in your head for so long come to life.
hmm
Um, I have seen a lot of people when they have enough books, like you have enough books where you could just do like a special edition of like your collage series or whatever and see what happens. I don't know.
yeah, for sure. Actually, if I can jump in here for 1 second, I have been debating. So, The Hounds of Origin, as I just mentioned, 1,300 pages. I had to release it as 2 volumes because there's no one who will do that much.
It's like the
And it's already
Titanic.
Yeah, it's 500 plus thousand words. So I did not intend on it being that long when I began. But I've got a line on a local Toronto company that will print it as a single volume, but it has to be 8 by 10 in order to fit it into a certain page length. So
Right.
between yourself or any of your listeners, if you saw an 8 by 10 book that was, 1,000 pages, would you prefer that versus two 700 page 6 by 9s?
I'm trying to I I have an 8 by 11 notebook. It must be upstairs. I was just about to just look at it, feel it. I feel like honestly, there's no such thing as too much story. And for me, like if I had a nice big baby of a book that I could just sit and curl up with for longer, that sounds great to me. Meeper says, I think it's cool that you'd write that much. I read War and Peace and one Q84 omnibus, so I have read longer books.
I'm
I
still
don't
weighing
know.
my options on that, so you may see that for me in the future.
Yeah. I've never read, like, I think the biggest baby I have is right there. It's a fellow Twitch streamer, Writer Lee, who is just publishing it in this month, next week. So I think that's the biggest baby that I have, other than Akatar. So, Meeper's just saying that it's longer than general. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's just keep going. I may have a couple more here. Of course. So we're getting to the end here. As a writer or a podcaster, what do you do when you uh you hit a creative slump or a wall?
I'm
Or does
fairly
that ever happen to you? Are you one of
I'm
those people that are like, I don't know what that feels like?
it has happened, but it happens very rarely. Usually, actually, so what will happen sometimes is I do lose interest in a story or in a character or a world or whatever. And I know that is coming, so I will go out of my way to try and write faster and faster and faster to get more out before I lose interest. When that happens,
As
I just
if your brain is just like on its way to somewhere.
yeah, it's like with this Yang Yoshiko universe, like I've got soon to be 2 books out in that. I've got several others that are partially written. I know eventually I will completely lose steam on that and then move on to something completely different. And then it might be years before I come back.
Right.
So it's like I want to, you know, milk my interest for as much as I can
Yep.
before that happens because people are reading, people are talking about it, and it's, what I am talking about now. It's happened before actually with Hounds of Origin where there's supposed to be a book 2, and people will email me and be like, "Where is volume 2?" And then now I'm at the point where it's like it has an ending. It's maybe not it's an open ending, but it's got an ending. So if I was hit by a bus tomorrow, it's considered finished. Will I go
Right.
back to write it at some point? Maybe, but it's not on the horizon.
Yeah. Oh, Meeper has a question. Have you ever lost a manuscript while waiting for interest to return?
Not a full manuscript. I have lost like a couple chapters before, which is not fun. I don't know if it's like a computer error or something like that. Sometimes I have multiple copies of it'll be saved in my hard drive, it'll be on like Google Docs on my phone, it'll be saved on like a backup drive somewhere. And then I go to clean these things out. It's like I don't need this on my phone anymore, blow it away. I don't need this here, I blow it away. But it's not backed
Right.
up on my hard drive. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, I'm looking for it. And it's like, where did
Right.
that go?
And it's so funny you say that because I went to have somebody read a scene that I wrote like 6 months ago, and I couldn't find the scene. And I'm like, I remember writing it. Like, where did it go? It's absolutely gone. No idea where it went. It's probably something to do with the Mandela effect or something like that. Um, all right. Or are you a pantser or are you a planner?
Mostly a pantser, but I like to have my ending. I need to know it's going somewhere.
Right.
So even if I don't know exactly how I'm going to get to the ending, it's happened before where I get 80% of the way through the book and it's like, I don't know where I'm going with this. So
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Um, but you would have to, like, if you're basing the ideas of your story from history, you would have to be able to outline a little bit, right? Like you'd have to, or is it all like in here? You've done so much research and so much studying, you just know it all.
that's a double-edged sword in itself because there's a lot that I know or think I know that I read somewhere. It's usually when I want to bring like another historical dimension or different go to a different country, have these characters show up there. And what was the story of that country in 1945? Oh, I think I remember this. And then I go to look into it and I can't find it anywhere in like historical notes. So I was like, did I
Right.
hallucinate that or
Did I make that up? Do you travel a lot?
I try to. The last place I went to Korea and Mongolia back in
Nice.
2024, I want to say. Hounds of Origin is based upon sort of Mongol history and Mongol culture. It is futuristic, post-apocalyptic, but it's heavily based in sort of the Mongol Empire of our past.
Right. And so when you travel to those places, are you like on tours and you're reading all the little signs and everything?
Yeah, it's also like paying attention to things like just the culture or even like the linguistics, like how people will speak or the accents people will have,
Mhm.
the different maybe turns of phrases. Usually I will do a lot of reading before I travel because it's one thing to go to a museum and kind of, blitz your way through it and understand 10% of what you're seeing, but to go there and spend the same amount of time but understand 90% of what you're seeing, it's so much more rewarding.
Right. Right. I usually just do the food tours, but that's just me. All right. So, some final questions here. Just like some quick rapid fire ones. Tea or coffee?
Neither. Soda.
I literally got that vibe from you. I'm like, I feel like you're not a hot beverage person.
No.
Okay.
No, I heavily regulate how much caffeine I get and when. So, like, if I'm taking caffeine, it's for a reason, not just because, oh, I woke up and this is my morning ritual.
Right.
And I don't like the taste, to be honest.
Uh-huh. Fair enough. I honestly I didn't think I liked the taste of coffee, but here I am addicted to it. So here we are. Um, Meeper actually had a question, and it was kind of tied into a question I had. So, if hypothetically someone had never read your book, which one would you suggest for a first time reader of your novels?
I'll give them two options. The Zimmer Insurgency is my first novel, which is still my bestseller, and it's got the most, 5-star reviews and everything. It's
Nice.
a standard science fiction action thriller. There's something in there for everyone. If you want something like a very, very quick and dirty intro, Attila the Valley Girl is a novelette I put out, which is 14,000 words, so you can read it in an hour. And
Oh, Nick. Okay.
yeah, it's like I made a little pocket-sized book for it. It's like 90 pages. So I usually will do like special deals on that one when I'm at a show because like I want to rope you in with that.
Right? And yeah, and it's a really good like gateway into your writing style. Like if you like this book and you like the writing style, then you'll like all of them, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Hopefully. Awesome. Um let me see. Okay. So if you were to travel back in time to when you were writing your first novel, even though it's your bestseller and it's got all the 5 stars, whatever, um, what is a piece of advice you would give yourself?
Um, don't set a release date before you know it's ready to go because I was like scrambling even in the last week before it came out to like finalize little tweaks here and there and upload the manuscript.
I'm still trying to learn that lesson. I don't know why I keep doing this myself, but that is very good advice. All right, so that's all the questions I have for you.
Sky pirates crash a drug kingpin's arranged wedding. This is the premise of my forthcoming novel, Taming the Laser Leopard, a gritty diesel punk tale in the Golden Triangle. The drug kingpin in question is Olive Yang, future mafia don of the entire area, and forerunner to other, more well-known names. Here, in 1947, they're only 20 years old, and are forced into a political marriage for family and dynastic reasons. But Olive might be trans, or genderqueer, and definitely has no interest in men. They've snuck their girlfriend into their own reception, have eyes for the lovely countess with the low neckline, and have the goal of getting absolutely drunk and shooting craps all night long while avoiding the groom. The hero of this novel is the smuggler and sometimes pirate Tech Mescal, who, after an unfortunate incident with some communists, finds herself flat broke and in need of some fast cash. When she finds out that her old friend Olive just got married, what better venue is there to set up an opium deal? Taming the Laser Leopard is coming out later this year. It is, for those who have been paying attention, a prequel to my 2025 novel, Tiger Blues, which intros Olive on a daring quest in the Tibetan peaks. But this can be read as a complete standalone. Everything within this Yang Yoshiko series is being written in such a way that you can start absolutely anywhere and know where you're going. For those who have a keen eye and are paying attention, tech shows up briefly as a disembodied voice in Tiger Blues, and the incident, the wedding crashing, is referenced there in Olive's narration. Other characters too, like Gregory Peck, the militiaman, not the actor, and Fat Huang show up in this one as well. For a preview of the novella, go back to episode 45 of this podcast. But be forewarned, that was a very early draft, and it has been beefed up significantly since then. For more details, subscribe or join my mailing list. Yes, because now I'm going to turn the tables on you and ask you about your books.
Okay.
You don't need to look so nervous. I know you're live here with Twitch, but again, I can cut things if you want to retake. And for your
Right.
audience's reference, this interview is going to be coming out, I think it's July 30th or whatever Thursday is closest to that date. So,
Cool.
yeah, everyone
That's
can check in
exciting.
on that.
But you guys will still be coming to this Twitch stream on that Thursday, but you can listen to the podcast during the day.
Yeah, because it comes out early
Yay.
morning.
Perfect.
All right. So we're going to talk mostly about your newest book, Mr. Brightside. I know in some of your streams, you like to ask people what music they like to listen to as they're listening. I'm going to guess you're a fan of The Killers.
Okay, I am a fan of the Killers. I do love all that indie stuff. Brandon Flowers actually came out with a new single and he sounds completely different. I still love him though. But yeah, like Weezer, the Killers, Monsters of Men, all of those classics, I think we're calling them now. Yeah. I think I listened to Mr. Brightside for about 2 or 3 months while writing that book.
Yeah, I saw the title of your book and I'm like, this sounds like a song. So, all right. Now you are mostly writing in would you classify it as romance?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So I have met a lot of romance authors. There's very little romance in my stuff. In
Yeah.
fact, I've told this story before, but I once went to a show where it was something like 60% romance authors, and I had a woman come up to me and just looked at my signs and was like, "Clearly, you're not romance. Everyone else here is. Tell me what you've got." Because she was not looking for romance. so,
Oh,
so
that's fantastic. And that's the thing about like people say don't judge a book by its cover, but like the cover will show you what the book is about.
for sure, for sure. I noticed that romance is really, really big right now, both with readers and with a lot of authors that are sort of active in our area. Um, how do you approach a romance novel when, like, from start to finish? Where do you get your idea? Do you know what the love story is going to be, when you want to introduce it, if it's going to be slow burn, if it's going to be quick?
It's a great question. Um, I never know. I'm a discovery writer, so I never know what to expect out of my books. Um, if we're talking specifically Mr. Brightside, this was actually something. Oh, over here. It's actually over here. If you're on Twitch. Mr. Brightside was something that I wrote actually as a teenager, and it was widely based on the books I was reading at the time, which was V.C. Andrews. And V.C. Andrews, if you're not familiar, has a lot of very high angst, strange, sometimes taboo romance and other very strange family relationships. So I wrote it as a teenager. It was a little weird, but I found the copy as an adult and I was like, I could work with this. So I took things that I liked from it and I turned it into Mr. Brightside. I don't know where my characters came from. I could tell you that Claire from Delivered with Love came from me. That character is based mostly on my own personality and my own just yeah, just me. It's the closest to me you're going to get. But with Mr. Brightside, Jude and Patrick kind of maybe there's some sort of uh projection of my teenage years. maybe. I don't know. But generally, my other romances, I think of a job that person is doing. And then I wonder how they will find someone that is perfect for them in that environment. So, um, Mr. Brightside though is just yeah, it's its own thing. I don't know where the characters came from. The story kind of just came out of nowhere and I just kind of rolled with it. It was just a story that had to be told.
That isn't that the best when it's just has to be told and kind of comes
Yeah.
out that way, especially when you
Yeah.
find it years later, forgetting that it was there. I did that with Rain's Agenda, where it was 10 years later it came out, and I didn't forget about it, but it was kind of like in a distant part of my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Like, sorry, go ahead.
uh, you were just at Pages and Pleasures last week, right, in Ottawa? I think they do a bunch of them, don't they? There's one in Windsor
They
as well.
do, they actually just have a new one in Hamilton. Not no, Hamilton? Halifax. They went to Halifax.
Hmm.
I think that just it probably works for the organizer to do that. But yeah, they do Kitchener, Ancaster, and Ottawa usually.
And I've seen those shows advertised before. I don't sign up for myself, obviously, because I'm trying to cater to my audience. But
Mhm.
what is it like going to a romance convention? What do you have to do to distinguish yourself amongst a crowd of, what I imagine is a very thick crowd of other romance authors?
Right. It is intimidating. I'm fairly new to going to shows. This one was my third big one. So when I say big one, I mean there are 90 authors and they're all romance authors. Um, they do vary. We have some romance authors that are strictly sports romance or strictly fantasy. There are low spice, there are high spice. So there are different you'll have someone come up and say, "What's the spice level? Is there spice? Is there no spice? Okay, I'm just gonna keep going." And then there are people that are looking out for those low spice, high emotion novels. So you just have to be clear about what to expect in your book, and then your readers will gravitate to you.
That's one thing I have noticed when I see other romance authors around, is that there's this convention that's kind of come up with using the word spice as like a euphemism. I don't know if that began in romance or if that's been around for a while elsewhere, but some of the other shows
Mhm.
I attend have quite young children, and just putting a spiceometer up there is probably the best
Yeah.
way of doing it. Um, I guess first, well, how much spice is in your books?
Very little. I do write the spice in during my drafting, and then when I get into my final edits, I end up taking it out. I'm like, this doesn't really match the writing style. I like to read spice, but as far as writing it, it just doesn't feel me. Um, my writing is more, you're going to see more emotional roller coasters, a lot more in-depth internal dialogue, healing, um, and yeah, less bedroom scenes for sure.
Well, I do like that there's this convention out there that you can readily tell someone without being too explicit exactly what to expect in this. I wish there was something like that for the rest of the writing community, because there's some, naughty scenes in my books, but I get people asking me like, "Oh, what audience is this intended for?" And I'm just like, "No, this is adult. Don't give this to your
Mhm.
teenage daughter." Like,
Right.
but I don't have
And
a clear way of saying that other than just putting like a spice-o-meter up, but then it's implying it's romance, which is not.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too is it's hard to figure out who the audience is nowadays because I have talked to high school students who are reading so space that I wouldn't even touch. Um and it's like the Heiress of Soul, it has mentions of suicide, but it's also a closed door spice. So it's like, do I let younger people read it or is that like I don't know. I it's hard to tell what audience really should be reading it.
Yes, that's my next question is how do you find the need you have to cater to a particular audience by either dialing up or dialing down the spice, or it sounds like you just keep it where you want it, where you think the characters need to go?
Exactly. I was actually just talking to my table buddy at the Ottawa show, and she said when she started writing spicier books, her sales went up because that's what the niche is. That's what is attracting people right now. Sex sells. And I was like, I spent a solid 5 minutes thinking, maybe I should put more spice in my books. And then I thought, I'm not changing myself. I'm not changing my writing style. Just I it feels like changing a part of your personality just to get sales. That doesn't really feel like me. Um, so yeah, I would say, I mean, if anyone is thinking of changing their writing style just to get sales, I wouldn't really entertain it.
I think readers can tell that as well when you're being authentic versus when you're just, you know, targeting for sales.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, One thing you mentioned in an answer just a minute ago was the sort of heavy emotional roller coaster that you like to put in there. And you are dealing with a toxic relationship in Mr. Brightside.
Yes.
Why was it important for you to put that in there to kind of show how toxic things can be and have this character? I don't know if she gets rescued from it or if she finds her own way out, but have her having to deal with this as she's, you know, being introduced to a new relationship.
Right. And I want to be very clear with my books that none of my females get rescued. That is a very heavy theme in my books is that there is no damsel in distress. Yes, she is in a toxic relationship. She knows she's in a toxic relationship. Um, and I don't know I don't know where that story or where that plot really came from. But, it was definitely something that I was nervous about writing only because I've never been in a physically abusive relationship, and that is the, key issue in this book. Verbal abuse, yes, and you'll see that in Delivered with Love. Uh, when I wrote Mr. Brightside, I didn't realize how similar the 2 were, internally. Um, so I actually just recently got feedback yesterday from a reader who, um, I was happy enough to get a DM from, who said that she very much related to my book, which breaks my heart. And my writing and the feelings that went behind her situation was spot on. And that was what I feared the most was putting that out into the world and someone who was in that kind of toxic relationship to read it and say, "That's nothing like what it's actually like." Like, you don't even know. But to actually get that feedback that it was spot on, that gave me goosebumps. Like, that was my biggest fear, and now I've just been like, I was validated that you don't have to be in a physical relationship or be in that situation to know how much it hurts internally. Yeah.
It's always a good feeling when you get that feedback from someone who's been through it, and hopefully she's at a better place in her life now.
Yeah.
Um, how much research did you have to do into that or research in general into your books?
So in general, I tend to do, actually, for the ones that I have published, I've done very little research because very little research was needed. As I was saying, Delivered with Love was very much, mostly close to me. So it's a lot of things that are in my environment. So I didn't really have to research. Mr. Brightside, I didn't do any research on it at all. There are there's an instance of an accidental pregnancy, and I am a mother, so I know what it's like, and so no research needed there. Maybe a little bit into, like, complications with pregnancy, things like that, things that make pregnancies unique, because I didn't want it to be exactly like me. But as far as the toxic relationship part, I just kind of took what I knew from books and movies and just stories I've heard over my years of living and just put my own feelings into it. And that was the extent of the research.
Well, I'm glad that it's working out for you. I know a
Yeah.
few other authors who do kind of the similar levels of research as you, and it just works out for them. My writing, of course, requires a lot more research on the historical stuff, but
Yeah.
maybe that's just the genre. Um, you, since we're on your Twitch stream, uh, how did you get into streaming on Twitch? And you're predominantly using this to talk about your writing, promote your writing. Do you do? I think I saw somewhere on your website you do like reads of your works in progress on there.
Yeah. So I started streaming on Twitch back in 2023. Essentially, I had moved to this new city and I wanted to find a writing group. I used to live in Oshawa, and I had a writing group in Oshawa that I created, and there was like 10 of us that all got together at Brew Wizards, and it was great. We and unfortunately I moved and could no longer see this group. Uh, COVID also happened, and so things were kind of weird there, and so I decided to try and start my own group here, but at the time, everyone was like, "I don't want to see anybody who isn't double vaccinated," and all this stuff, and so I'm like, "Okay, let's go virtual. We'll try something virtual." And, I was on Twitter one day, and someone said that they were streaming soon, and it was someone that I was following who was a writer. And I was like, "What does that mean?" And so I clicked on the link and she was on Twitch. And I think I watched her for like 2 streams and thought, "I could do this." And a week
Hmm.
later, September 17th, I was, doing my first stream. This room was completely empty and it was very dull, no fun lights or anything going on. Um, so that was September 2023, and then by, November of 2023, I had finished the first draft of The Heiress of Soul, which was something that I had been rewriting and rewriting for years. So it just went to show that just having somewhere to be accountable and to go twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30, um, it just held me accountable, had me hunker down, lock in, get my work done. And since then, so November 2023, Heirs of Soul is done. December 2023, my first draft of Delivered with Love was done. January 2024, my first draft of Mr. Brightside was done. So it was like back to back to back, just all my writing got done. And then from there, I just kind of slowed it down and started publishing them a little by little.
Have you had, as you're kind of presenting this to your audience, has there ever been any like major changes in a book that's come up where like you present your audience one thing and you realize, oh no, I need to change this, I need to change this chapter, I need to reschedule this release, or anything of that nature that has left your audience disappointed, or I don't want to say disappointed, but believing one
Um,
thing and then now the program has changed on them?
I don't think so. At one point I did have my work shown on the screen while we were doing writing sprints. You could see me writing. I had since taken that off just because I was afraid of plagiarism and things like that. So now we have like a task list. Uh, I do live read my work, but I had only started doing that recently. Um, I read the entirety of The Heiress of Soul for a couple weeks, then Delivered with Love. And then just before Mr. Brightside was released, I did a read of that. And it was actually really good because I was able to find typos and things that I wanted to change before it was published. So reading it out loud to the viewers actually really helps with the editing process. Um, I never really dived too deep into what's happening in the books and this is what to expect in the books. I think one thing that some badgers are really pumped about is me trying to read some spice on stream. But other than that, the most disappointing thing I think I encountered just recently was I said, "Hey guys, I got some really exciting news. I'm gonna either do project A or project B. What do you guys think?" And they're like, "Neither, none, don't do it." And I was like,
Mm.
okay, never mind." Back to the drawing board. So, but having that feedback, I am going to be doing something different. So I do appreciate as disappointing. So here is me being actually disappointed. As disappointing as it was for me to not get the kind of excitement that I was expecting from my viewers, I got raw honesty, um, born out of love and just the well-being of like the decisions that I was going to make. And so yeah, I don't know, it's a really good platform um where we work together and we support each other. It's not just like they're here to watch me do my thing. We're here together.
Yeah, it's good that you can get the direct feedback that way, and I can imagine that would be disappointing, but if you're gonna lose your audience by spending several months working on something that is ultimately not gonna sell or not gonna interest them, it's probably best to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since you mentioned doing, like, readings of was it the whole books of
All of them, yes.
have you ever considered doing, audiobooks?
Um okay. Well, they say that I have a nice voice. I do not believe them. I hear my voice all the time and I do not hear what they hear. They describe ASMR and soothing and I I d- I don't see it. Maybe one day Josh just said yes, we do say this. Maybe one day maybe, but, ultimately, actually, one of the decisions or projects that I wanted was to do an Heiress of Soul audiobook with, a voice actor that I know from Twitch, and they said, "No, bad idea." So yeah, an audiobook isn't in the journey yet, but maybe one day.
That whole thing about, your own voice sounds weird and it's not you, and who is this person on the answering machine? You do get over that after about 500 hours.
Right?
I used to say the same thing, like, I want my books an audiobook because that way I can go back and read them, and,
Yeah.
some of my books I haven't read since they first came out because I just haven't had the time to sit down and physically open them up, but to have them, as an audiobook, I was listening to, an audiobook in progress on a drive back from Sault Ste. Marie this past weekend, and I'm
Mhm.
like, "I forgot how good this book is." Maybe that's me tooting my own horn, but, I'm writing for myself and I like it. So but it
Yeah.
is my voice, and you do get over that. It I wouldn't have been able to do that when I first started, like, "This is who is this on this audiobook? It's not me."
Yeah, and I think as a podcaster too, you're used to, like, re-listening to your own voice to a point now, like, whatever. I don't save anything. I just talk, and then my voice and then it's gone. It's not I we don't listen to it again. Maybe, maybe
Mhm.
one day. Maybe I could start with, like, some short stories or something and then go from there.
That's my recommendation for sure.
Yeah.
Now on I think it was your website or your bio, you said, Heiress of Soul, which is your first book, you were toying around with that idea since you were 17.
Yes.
And what was the actual decision-making progress process to finally write it and put it out?
Um, so the Heiress of Soul, um it started off again, as you said, I was 17. It started off as an Inuyasha fan fiction that I was writing when I was bored at work. And I basically just had a binder and I was just writing and writing. And over the years, I just like kept going back to it and rewriting things, adding things. Um, but literally, I'm it's actually kind of funny. My email address has 0717 in the email address. And that was the date that I started my writing journey, was July 2017. It would be kind of cool if it was July 17th today, because that would be really interesting. Um, but that's when I was like, that's it. I'm actually going to publish this thing. And notice how I said it was 2017. The Years of Soul didn't actually publish until 2015. So life happened. Um, so I had gotten married in 2017. And then I had my child in 2019, and just raising child and finding a career and all of the things. I actually didn't write for 3 years in that time. And so, yeah, I decided in 2017 I really wanted to publish it, but then I think 2023 was like, that's it. This is actually the year that I'm going to publish it. And yeah, it took two years.
And how was it to actually get the proof copy and hold it in your hands and
Oh
open it
my
up?
gosh.
And
Yeah, I cried. I cried. It was, oh my gosh. I remember where I was when I opened that little Amazon bag and saw my book inside. It was, yeah, very, I don't know, like, you hold it in your hand and you're like, "I've been thinking about this since I was 17 years old." Like, that's insane. Um, yeah, it doesn't quite hit the second or third time around, but, like, the first time you hold your book in your hands, that's just so surreal.
for me, it still hits the second, third, fourth time around. Not maybe not to the same magnitude, but it does still hit.
Yeah. I mean, I The Heiress of Soul is its own thing. It's a romantasy. I don't write fantasy anymore. At least I don't think I do. Maybe one day. But it was it it was just its own thing that had just created so much it just filled my brain for so many years, but to finally have it out of my head. And that's why, like, Delivered with Love, Mr. Brightside came out right after because I finally had space in my brain for more creative freedom to do the contemporary romances that I actually love.
Yeah, sometimes, especially when you're deep into it, being able to focus on multiple projects at once is just impossible to do. Once I finally get Taming the Laser Leopard done, maybe this is me announcing something I can't live up to, but there will be a couple other books that will come quite quickly after that.
Oh, really? Because I always say, "Oh, after this is published, I'm gonna take a break." And then that never
I've got a few that are already written, at least in their first draft, and
Nice.
I could do, they're shorter, so they're like on the border between novelette and novella, so I can get those
Oh,
out quite
nice.
quickly.
Yeah.
Now, I've noticed that there is another KristyLee as an author out there. Have you
Yeah.
had any difficulties distinguishing yourself from her?
Um, well, right now, Mr. Brightside is on Goodreads under her.
That's how I discovered that. Because I, like,
And
clicked on
I've
the author
already
profile, and I'm like, "That's not you."
No, so I'm trying to get that fixed. So essentially what they have to do on their end is put like 5 spaces in between Kristy and Lee to get me, and I don't know how, like, if I can fix it on my end. Like, do I have to fix something on, like, on my Amazon side? Can I put 5 spaces and it'll forever just sync? I don't know. Um, but yeah, it hasn't been too bad. I haven't heard anybody else talk about this other author. So, there's also another author, who has, I think they have a book called Delivered with Love, and it's a girl sitting on a car, and I believe her name is Claire too. Which is, I'm like, I swear I had no idea. But yeah, it's funny how you think that your ideas and whatever are unique, or your name even, but like, this is my name.
Your doppelganger out there.
I do, yes.
There's another Jason Shannon as well, who is a musician,
Yep.
which is why that URL is already taken, and I have to go with Jason M. Shannon. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's, a KristyLee singer in the States as well. So,
Mhm.
I went to put my book in a library and it said, "You can't use that name because they're a singer." And so I had to go with a different name. I think it says KristyLee T. So.
All right, I got a few rapid fire questions, kind of in the same vein as what you would do. What is the hardest emotion for you to write?
um, Funny enough, lust is really hard for me. No pun intended. um, I really struggle with it because I get kind of cringy, and then I feel like I'm using like cliche words, and then I'm just it doesn't feel natural. Um, Other than that, I'm pretty good with the other emotions. I'm pretty sure. Let me think. Really good with anger. Really good. Banter. Um, Sadness. Expert. Um, yeah. Lust is actually the hardest one for me as a romance writer.
I've had this conversation before where it's like anything, lusty, sexual, and also like action scenes. If you're gonna do like a fight scene, how do you distinguish one scene from one book from another scene from another book? 'Cause you don't want to just keep repeating yourself. Like you always want to up
I
the
have
ante a
a
little
trick.
bit.
Do you want to hear my trick?
Sure.
Because in Heiress of Soul, I had to write 5 against 3. So 8 characters fighting against each other at the same time. So I used D&D dice, and I treated it like a D&D game, and everyone had their turn, and I just rolled the dice. And if they got a good roll, then something cool happened, and if they got a bad roll, then they hurt themselves, stumbled, something, and it
Mhm.
made it really unique in that way.
That's an
So,
interesting way to do it for sure.
yeah, I recommend trying it. D&D dice worked really well. And that's exactly what I did for the Heiress of Soul, and someone lost a hand. One of my characters lost a hand just because the dice willed it so.
All right, yeah. Next rapid fire question. What is the last book that you read that made you cry?
Besides my own book. Um, just look over at my bookshelf here. What book made me cry? The one that always makes me cry, Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. It's a book and a movie, but the book made me cry twice. Charlotte's Web, every time. Um, and that I actually read that quite recently. Um, um, it doesn't take much for me. It really doesn't. Anything with like a just like a heavy emotion just gets me every time.
What is a piece of advice that you would give a young writer seeking to pursue the craft?
A young writer. Oh, so I have a 7-year-old, and I try to get her to write all the time. And I would say um to write what excites you. Absolutely write what excites you and don't stop. Uh you're allowed to obviously have breaks, but don't stop for years like I have because you're depriving yourself of all of that fun. Um but yeah, write what's in your heart.
Are you the type of writer who would be only one bed or trapped in an elevator? I'm told that these are tropes in romance, which is how that
They
question
are.
came about.
Deliver with Love has a not trapped in an elevator, but in an elevator quite often. I am a
Mm.
fan of the one bed just because of like how tropey it is and how cheesy it is.
All right, and lastly, because you brought this question up earlier, if your book was a drink, which drink would it be?
Oh no. Okay. A fun wine? I don't know. I did actually get this question asked but it was like a pre-question, so I got to think about it. Can I remember what I said? No. Um I would like to think of like Delivered with Love as being something like fun, like a pina colada. Mr. Brightside though is like something on the rocks. like a whiskey, something just maybe smoother than whiskey. But yeah, just something really, you gotta have guts to drink it.
I'll follow through on my own book here, which is Taming the Laser Leopard. I would say is a caipirinha, which is a Brazilian cocktail. And only because that cocktail comes up in the book, and there might be
Oh,
something
nice.
very.
Say, how do you know?
I've had it as a drink, and it is a very nice drink.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I've got for questions. Is there anything you want to add before we move into your reading?
Um, my books are available on Amazon, e-readers, ebooks, and Kindle Unlimited and paperbacks.
Oh, and I didn't prompt you with this earlier, but where can people find you? Your Twitch, your website, social media, and if you have any events in the future coming up.
Yeah, so my website, my Twitch handle, and my Instagram handle are all author Kristy. So you got authorkristy.com and then author Kristy handle. As far as shows coming up, uh I don't have anything until November, which would be the Pages and Pleasures and Caster. And we do have a Twitch event coming up in October. We call it Oftober. That is a very exciting event on Twitch for writers, writing streamers, and writers alike. We essentially collaborate with each other and support each other in our goals for the month of October. So we have a word counter, um, a, a word counter for writing, for reading, audiobook listening, any way that you can consume or create words, we count it. And so last year we had a goal of, I believe it was 1.5 million words, which we surpassed. And then we did the same event in May, and I think we may have surpassed 2 million words, or we got really close. I think it was 1.7. So that is a very fun event that we have going on Twitch in October.
He's just a small-town official who's been nominated for an oversight chairman position, and his quote-unquote Senate confirmation is going to be a nightmare. Summoned to the imperial capital, Governor Zanzuhi will fall between the crosshairs of people who eat men like him for breakfast, foremost among them the beautiful, impossibly alluring, and ruthless Empress Concubine. One night in Ichhulan is a wild ride of manipulation, bribery, bedazzlement, and Zanzuhi will even face an assassin's knife while there. Set in my Mongolian Book of the Sky universe, this novella can be read as a complete standalone, or it can be read as shedding new light on some of the details in The Hounds of Harajin. It is collected in paperback and ebook in the anthology The Moon Panther, and available as a standalone audiobook wherever you get your audiobooks. Purchasing the MP3 from my website store not only gets you the free ebook, but also gets you the exclusive bonus scene, One Night in Telfer, 30 extra minutes of content which adds a bit more detail to some of the machinations going on behind the scenes. See www.jasonmshannon.com/The Moon Panther for details.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to get into your reading here. This is from Mr. Brightside, and I'll get you just sort of intro for my audience, where in the book this is, and what we need to know going into it.
Yeah, so Mr. Brightside is it's a contemporary trauma romance. Essentially it's about a woman who is in a physically abusive relationship, and after a very rowdy party, she realizes that she had slept with somebody else. And don't worry, it's not cheating because she's in a physically abusive relationship, so he's a bad guy, okay? But essentially what she realizes is that the person that she was with was this green flag man who she didn't know could possibly exist. and it was opening her eyes to what could potentially be happiness. So, for context of this chapter, um, Judith, has been staying at Patrick's house while she's trying to find somewhere else to live. And in that time, close proximity has brought them closer together. And yeah, I guess they're just kind of going through the motions. Their lives have kind of synced up, their day-to-day routines, things like that, without them really realizing it. Okay, sorry, I gotta get my man voice on. What's first on your list for the day? He asked, his fingers brushing small lines on my back. I let out a soft sigh, the reality of the day creeping in. I need to call the morgue and finalize the cremation and talk to the lawyer about my dad's will. I stared past him at the sunlight crawling farther across the wall. It shouldn't take that long, just a couple of appointments and phone calls. He studied me for a moment, his brow furrowing slightly. That's a lot to deal with in one day. I shrugged. It's fine. I just want it to be over with. I don't want to drag it out. Patrick didn't say anything for a moment, his thumb still stroking my back. I could tell he didn't agree with my determination to power through, but he didn't push. You'll be back here tonight, right? He asked. I agreed to one night, I said. That was before you seduced me. Patrick's lips twisted in an attempt not to smile. Well, I have my dad's house to stay at now, so you don't need to worry about me. Patrick's hand stilled on my back, and his expression shifted. It's not about worrying, Jude. He pushed himself upright, his movements sharper now. You think I'm asking you to stay because I feel sorry for you? I sat up too, pulling the blanket tighter around me. Isn't that what this is? My words came out sharper than I intended, but I couldn't stop them. I've already stayed longer than I planned. I don't want to overstay my welcome. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, grabbing his pants from the floor. Overstay your welcome? Seriously? He shoved his legs into the pants, frustrated in his movements. You're not a guest, Jude. You aren't some obligation to me. I rose from the bed, bringing the sheet with me. Patrick, I already feel like a squatter in your house, using your resources, taking up space. Patrick turned to face me, his fingers curling in anger. You really think that's how I see you? He put his hands on my shoulders, bending so we were eye to eye. Jude, I want you here because I like having you here. But I want you to be okay with staying if that's what you want too. I shook my head, my defenses rising to the surface. And what if this, I gestured to the space between us, becomes something you regret? I can't be someone you end up resenting. He straightened, his lips pressing into a hard line. You're not some charity case, and I don't make offers I don't mean. I gave you an out yesterday, and your choice was to sleep with me. Was that your choice yesterday, and today is different? I shook my head. No? He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. Well, fuck, Jude. If I can't see this for what it is, then maybe I need to figure out what the hell I'm doing wrong. He turned away from me, opening the dresser drawer for a clean shirt. The statement hit me. He wasn't doing anything wrong. In fact, he was doing everything right. It was me. Patrick was not only giving me a place to land, but he was asking me to let him in, and I was doing nothing but shutting him out. Not only that, but he was listening to me, and allowing me to say whatever thoughts were in my head, even if he didn't agree with them. He wasn't punishing me, pushing me, hitting me. I trusted him without realizing I was trusting him. That alone spoke louder to me than any words. I stepped toward him, placing a hand on his back. He hesitated for only a second before turning, acknowledging me. I swallowed the lump in my throat, forcing me to speak. Thank you, I said. His brow lifted in confusion. For what? I stepped closer, running a hand up his arm, and my eyes locked on his frustrated gaze. For listening to my nonsense, I said. I haven't been able to properly speak my mind in a long time. I wouldn't have gotten away unscathed talking to Brian like that. His eyes softened. I'm sorry I yelled. I didn't think about... You don't have to think about how you talk to me. I'm tough. I can take whatever honesty you want to lay on me. But for me to be able to trust you enough to yell and speak my mind without fear? I clamped my jaw shut, fighting back emotion. I've spent my whole life trying to please. If I cared for others, things were okay. But the moment I did or said anything that was... I couldn't fight it back any longer, dropping my head to hide what was supposed to stay hidden. No, Patrick said softly, lifting my chin to meet his gaze. Say it, Jude. Say the word. That word. It undid me. Because in that moment I realized how tightly wired my brain was, how wrong I had been for so long. Say the word, he repeated. A burning tear ran down my cheek and his thumb swiped it away quickly. Selfish, I said. He nodded, encouraging me to keep going. If people stop what they're doing for me, I continued, voice cracking, if they rearrange their lives or give up pieces of themselves because of me, then I'm taking something I didn't earn. Tears blurred my vision, but I didn't look away from him. And that makes me selfish. It means I'm asking for more than I deserve. I broke then, finishing my thoughts through a burst of sobs. And I know that's wrong. That's not how it works. But I can feel my brain protesting, like I'm tugging at cords that have been fixed in place for years. Patrick's hand wrapped around the nape of my neck, pulling me closer to him. You drive me up the wall, but know this. That bruise is the last one you'll ever carry. I promise you that, he said. I see the fire in you, Jude. Let it out. Let the world see what I see. Be selfish. I leaned forward, pressing my forehead to his chest. His arms engulfed me in his safe embrace. Are you sure this isn't too much for you? I asked, pulling away enough to look up at him. He looked down at me with irritation in his eyes. You're a lot, he admitted. You're beautiful, sexy, strong, and even when the world has torn you apart, you're still kind. He pressed his lips to my forehead. You're everything I want. He pressed his forehead to mine, staring into my eyes. Now stop fighting with me or I'll be late for work. I sat down at the edge of the bed, watching him thread his arms through his work shirt. And in that moment I decided, staying didn't make me weak or selfish. I had the choice to let myself be cared for and exist in a space that didn't demand anything from me but me. I was in control of my life now, and I wanted to stay.
All
And
right.
see.
KristyLee, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks to Kristy for coming on the podcast. All of her links will be in the show notes. Coming up, I have Meg Lush coming on to talk about her romance books. I have Kristyenjoys Marchioni talking about his newest book, a murder mystery. But next week, I have Garrett Van Eck talking about his fantasy novella, The Reluctant Blade. As I record this, there are some pretty severe forest fires going on in northern Ontario, which is severely affecting the air quality in the Greater Toronto Area. I am supposed to be at the Blueberry Blast Festival in Nipigon on August 14th weekend, which is, comparatively speaking, semi-near the affected areas. Let's hope everything is under control by then. I will also be at the Cogs and Clockwork Steampunk Festival September 12th weekend. That's in Fergus, Ontario. and CanCon in Ottawa October 16th weekend. To stay up to date on all my events, you can go to www.jasonmshannon.com/events with all the various times, addresses, and updates going on there. Taming the Laser Leopard will be coming soon. I have just recently unveiled the cover for that one, and subscribers to my mailing list got to see it a couple weeks before the general public, so that's all the more reason to join. I will have more updates on that in the coming week here on this podcast, so stay tuned. Until next week, cheers everyone.